Welcome to the first episode of Mommy Jail. I'm your host, Susan Bassi. This podcast is for parents, married, unmarried, divorced, or widowed, navigating the complexities of family life. But most importantly, it's for those touched by America's family court system. Mommy Jail is an eyes optional podcast, meaning we pair each episode with photos and videos we've captured over the years. These visuals provide a backdrop for those who want a glimpse into everyday life as we prepare the series. We select videos and photos that highlight the region where the events of the podcast take place. They may not necessarily match the podcast discussion, but it's the format we will use instead of the talking head format seen in other places. And it gives us something to do with all the video we've taken over the years of our old yellow lab. And in the future, we will have guest voices sharing their experiences. But for this episode, we launched the podcast with the story that changed everything.
What is it?
Freedom of the Press Foundation.
Right on.
Today's episode begins in Gilroy, California, once home to the famous Gilroy Garlic Festival. This is where we raised our children, and I was a member of a gang known as Las Madres, 1990. Las Madres members primarily worked from home. Some were doctors, engineers, or married to firefighters and police officers. Some were debutantes, some were wealthy, and some middle class, just looking for a sense of community as they raised their children. Among the women in our group, no one spoke about jail. If they'd ever been, they kept it to themselves. Our members organized playgroups, garage sales, and field trips. We met in parks and celebrated holidays, and we always stepped up to help one another. When one mom had a baby, we rallied, bringing meals like meatloaf and gravy with mashed potatoes and salad. Mostly the luxury of time for a mom who didn't have to cook dinner for a newborn and her other children. Our children grew up as friends before they ever started school. When they were sick, we pitched in with doctor visits and pharmacy runs. Las Madres kids enjoyed relatively normal childhoods, filled with vacations that included boating trips, ski trips, and dinner with parents every night at the dinner table. Reading at bedtime was a staple, so we all borrowed and shared books and visited story time at the library as a weekly calendared event. When school started, we became the cupcake moms. We held bake sales and volunteered in classrooms and made cupcakes or cookies for holidays and birthdays. Forgetting a school event or cupcakes could quickly land you in mommy jail. We were a gang of sorts, conspiring to raise our children in a community where everyone knew your name, at least on the right side of the tracks, and everyone knew your kids. Years after Las Madres, we moved to Los Gatos, 30 minutes to the north, in the heart of Silicon Valley. Los Gatos was a world apart from Gilroy. While publishing a magazine in the area, I met people from all walks of life. One of them, a store manager at Lenardi's, introduced me to a woman named Susan. She mentioned her niece Jessica was facing challenges in family court. I first met Jessica at the Sunnyvale courthouse where she had Judge Grilli. She was a single mom to a little boy named Johnny, and she was the first to help me navigate a system I was barely beginning to understand. Jessica was the first to teach me that in California, custody cases for married parents are public, but for unwed parents, they are confidential, a relic of an outdated blue law. A law that shields the lives of wealthy and prominent individuals who have children outside of wedlock in case it might be embarrassing to their careers. Women commonly refer to this law as a slut-shaming law. Jessica's story revealed the harsh realities of the system. She had a brief relationship with Johnny's father, who showed little interest in parenting. However, his mother, Johnny's grandmother, wanted to be involved. So she hired powerful attorneys from a prestigious Silicon Valley law firm, the Lonich and Patton law firm, and joined the grandmother to the custody case with Jessica. Jessica suddenly found herself battling not Johnny's father, but his grandmother, who secured visitation rights through Judge Grilli. With limited resources, Jessica couldn't afford an attorney, and the odds were stacked against her, The court ordered her to send Johnny on flights from LA to San Jose every other weekend to visit his grandmother. When Johnny turned 5, life had settled a bit for Jessica. She was married and pregnant with her second child, and Johnny was thriving in school, looking forward to finally having a sibling. And then came the fever weekend. Johnny had a high fever. It was close to 102, and he was too sick to travel. He was lethargic and he had missed school. But when Jessica called the grandmother to reschedule, she refused. She refused to cooperate, and she showed little compassion for a sick grandchild. Instead, she asked her attorneys and paid them more money to file a contempt motion against Johnny's mother. And the court sided with the grandmother. Jessica had a public defender appointed for her because she couldn't afford an attorney. And so, at 8 months pregnant, she was sentenced to 30 days in jail for not putting her sick child on an airplane to visit grandmother. Jessica lost her job and endured the humiliation of incarceration. But despite the hardships, she rebuilt her life, eventually becoming a Las Madres mom. Her story taught us about the hidden struggles parents face in our modern family courts, how prolonged litigation robs children of stability and parents of resources. It opened my eyes to the systemic issues that rarely make headlines. Today, decades after my Las Madres days, I know more people who have been in jail because of family court than for traditional crimes. These stories rarely appear in local news or on television shows or in the movies. Mommy Jail explores this unseen world. In upcoming episodes, we'll share stories like the father jailed for attending his child's school Halloween party and the mother arrested for confronting her son's video game habits. Our goal is to shed light on the legal system that affects 50% of parents who end up in family court. We're produced every Friday night at 10 o'clock or as close as we can produce at that time. This podcast blends the realities of modern family court and the criminal courts, and we aim to provide understanding and perhaps a warning for parents to stay out of court because nothing good ever happens there. I'm Susan Bassi, and I'll see you next week.
Like this?
Yep, and throw it towards the beat. See, you made her do that.